Okay, great. Slides are done. We're going to move into our walkthrough, our first walkthrough. So what are we going to do? We're going to start the flights application. We're going to talk about the two APIs that are exposed from the flights application. And again, you may be wondering, why do I choose to expose two APIs? Because there are instances where you will have an application exposing all kind of different APIs. Okay. Uh, it's not always a one-to-one relationship. You have your implementation and you have your API as a one-to-one relationship. You have an implementation that implements multiple different APIs. Okay. All right. And of course, we need to understand the operations, the user's APIs operations, the flights API operations, and we're going to do all that by using Postman. And we're also going to discuss how authentication looks like in the flights application. Okay, and that should conclude the class. Now, not the class, the exercise, the walkthrough. Um, I will split all walkthroughs pretty much. It's impossible to do them in a single sitting because it's going to be like, I don't know, a 40-minute recording, right? Maybe close to an hour recording, right? So we're going to be splitting it in different sections, right? All right, so let's begin. Let me close the slides. There we go. Where was I? Yeah, I was here. Okay, good. So you need a terminal. Let's grab a terminal. And again, I'm on Linux, guys, so I have a terminal that looks like this. I can make the font a little larger. Give me a second. There you go. Okay, so I made the font a little larger so you have an easier time seeing it. And my terminal gives me the ability to create tabs. I know Mac terminals gives you the ability to do that as well. If you're on Windows and you don't have a terminal that gives you the ability to open tabs, just open multiple terminals. Okay. All right, so the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to log in, right? The account that we're going to log in is called no name, or the user we're going to log in into the VM that hosts the flights application is called no name. So we need to SSH no name at, and let me grab the host that is tagged as being the flight host. Again, if you ask for VMs, you should have the VMs with two different prefixes. One is prefixed as flights, the other one is prefixed as no name. You want to use the one that is flights. Okay, and these are AWS VMs. Okay, now the password, I'm going to type it right here, but I'm going to remove it right away in order to log in. Is no name training one exclamation. That's your password. No name training one exclamation. Right? Okay. So let's remove the no name training. Let's press enter. Now, if this is the very first time you log in into these VMs, you're going to get this type of question from SSH. You want to say yes, and you want to type the password, capital N no name, capital T training, one exclamation like this. Okay. If you do an ls-lav to see the contents, you will see that you have a flights folder that pretty much contains the flights application already installed, and it contains a folder NS401 active testing. And I'm going to show you the contents of this NS401 active testing. So here's the contents. So pretty much 3 different folders with a bunch of files. In all honesty, the only thing you need is the flights OpenAPI specification.yaml and the source me from both the 0 and the 1 folders. And these pretty much going to give us the ability to deploy the flights application with different behavior. And the reason why I want to deploy the flights application with different behavior is because it's going to expose and help us understand how active testing actually works, right? So that's what we're going to do. 2 CI/CD folder contains a couple of files, one for GitLab, the other one for Jenkins, that explains how you can actually contains pretty much it's not a template, it's an actual integration that you will have to remove to replace values in order to reflect your scenario, your situation. But it's a good starting point, right? And pretty much when we do our GitLab integration, I'm going to be using this file. The last thing we're going to be using is this user OpenAPI specification.yaml in order to discover all the user API operations. Okay. The will file and the requirements, these are files that are needed in order to install the Flights application and use it. Okay, that's pretty much, it's a package. It's a Python package. Okay, and the requirements contains all the requirements in order to be able to run this package. It's Python stuff. Go to pythonlang.org, I believe, and you will see, and you can learn everything about it there beyond our scope. All right, good. We're going to navigate under flights, like this. By the way, Control L cleans up your terminal on Unix, on Linux. Okay, Control L. If that doesn't work on your terminal, you can type clear. It does the same thing. Good. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to type dot. Dot is a shortcut for source. We're going to say .env/bin/activate. That's a Python virtual environment, in case you're wondering. Again, pythonlang.org. Learn everything about it there. The other thing we need to source is under our NS401 files 0 initial source me. So you need to do this file because this is going to control what type of behavior the Flights application is going to exhibit. Okay, so that's what you want to do. Execute it too. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to initialize the database, Flask initdb. And if you don't know what Flask is pretty much a framework for web applications, and of course APIs is a form of a web application. Okay, so let's initialize the database. Now the very first time you execute this command, it may take a few seconds, but if you execute it again, it's going to be much faster, right? Lazy loading and all that good stuff. All right. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to run the server, Flask run -h 0.0.0.0.0 -p 58443. Make sure you specify this exact port. Right, the -h 0.0.0.0 is pretty much this web server is going to be listening all interfaces, all network interfaces. The port 58443 is the only port that is accessible from the no-name training VMs. That's the only thing you can access. If you don't specify this port, you don't have access to the Flights API. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to create a certificate using this argument, --cert ad hoc. And here's the beauty of Python, because it makes the harder things easier. With this, now we create a self-signed certificate on the fly, which is all we need. Okay. Run it. Now, I want you to execute this command on the foreground. Why? Because I want you to have access to all the logs. If you close this terminal, if you hit the X, you close this terminal, well, guess what? This application, the server, the Flask server, also dies because it's attached to the terminal. Okay? So do not close this terminal while you're in the process of completing this course. If you want to span the, consumption of all the training material for this course across multiple days, which you can. You got to remember, you come back every single day that you want to, or every single time you would like to continue working on this and restart the application using the same exact steps, right? CD flights, source, both activate and source me. You may get away by initializing the database. You don't need to initialize the database again. You only need to do it at the very beginning, right? Or whenever I'm telling you you need to do it. And then Flask run. So every single time you need to repeat these steps. Okay. All right. So our server is up and going. It's running. It's in the next section that we're actually going to play around with the users APIs, right? The users APIs and explore the users open API specification. Okay. For the time being, this section is done, guys. This section is done.